All right, guys, welcome back to Southeastern 14. Blake Lovell and Max Barr back with basketball. Yes, I know you've seen tons and tons of football videos up on our channel. If you haven't, that means you're not subscribed. Go ahead and do that now. Hit that subscribe button. A lot of SEC football preview stuff to get you ready. But as you know, if you've been watching our basketball stuff, we have been going through our position rankings. We've done the point guards, we've done the combo guards. Now we are getting to the wings, which you can decide however you want to label it. Small forwards. If there's another label you want to use, we'll go with wings. And we're wing guys, and so we're going to go with that. And Max, this is an interesting group. We're just going to jump into your rankings here, but as you and I were talking about before we started recording, I don't think there's probably the depth necessarily at this position as there was at the guard position. Because, like we said, we had a really hard time separating point guards, combo guards at times. There's just so many guards. And I think when you look at this kind of position, it's sort of that in between, right? Before we start to get into the big guys. And so, but still, some very talented players in this group. And I'm very interested to see how your ranking looks on this, because I think there's a lot of different orders I could go in with this group here. So,
yeah, let's go, baby. Let's do the wings. One thing I want to start with is you said there's less depth at the position. That 6'6", 6'7" guy that can put the ball on the floor is just a less common prototype. But it's tough to separate these guys. I think there's going to be a lot of comments that are unhappy with our rankings. But hey, it's mid-August. This is awesome. We're talking college basketball in mid-August, and people are interested in it, and nothing better. What I will say, though, is that this might be the most, I don't know how I want to put it, but just most solid group. And I'm looking 1 through 7, and oh man, there's 7 is almost just as good as 1. But if I wanted to start with some honorable mentions, just jump right into it. I'll start it off with probably a guy that you don't have on your list. I didn't have him on my list until about 30 minutes ago. I was just looking back over, and I was like, my gosh, I don't know how I don't mention him, and that's Brandon Murray coming into Ole Miss. Now, I know we're going to get the whole, he's not going to play, but if he doesn't play, I'll take him off the list. Listen, freshman year at LSU is when we saw him last in the SEC. Last year was at Georgetown. Freshman year at LSU, played 30 minutes a game and still averaged double digits. He's already had a season under his belt averaging double digits in the SEC. And then goes to Georgetown, leads the team in steals. I think he was second in scoring behind Spears, but this is a guy that's already proven that he has success in the SEC. That's one of the kind of knocks we put on a lot of guys, is like, well, will it translate to the SEC? He's already done it. So I think if he's cleared and he can play, I don't see any reason why he doesn't average double digits again. I don't. So I love Brandon Murray, and you can tie him right into Allen Flanigan. I think they have a nice 1-2 punch there at the wing. What's your take on the Ole Miss wings there?
I mean, I would have Brandon Murray on my list somewhere. I mean, again, as we know, who knows how long my list can be, because we've always kind of joked about that. But like, I think he's absolutely one of the best ones. So, and like you said, if he plays, if you haven't watched any other videos we've done, look, here's the deal. The thought is, all right, we're just assuming guys play until we're told they're not going to play. And I know they have to have waivers. I know there's a rule in place, but we're just going with what we have for now. And whenever. Yeah, until it's officially decided they are not going to be cleared and they don't get a waiver, we're just going to assume they're playing. So, which may be the case for everyone. Who knows? We'll see how this goes. But for now, he's on the team, and we've been told that he's not. I mean, like, we haven't been told he's not playing. So, exactly. So I think that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, Brandon Murray, like you said, always hard to project how guys will do coming into the SEC if they've never been in the SEC before. But he has, and he's proven, he can play at this level, and so I think he's a big addition for Ole Miss, which, as we said, is one of the reasons why they were one of our top transfer teams this offseason.
Right. Yeah, and people aren't really giving Allen Flanigan enough credit either. Bruce Pearl actually said in a quote, he said, I forget the exact context of it, but he had a line where he said, and now we have to replace another starter with Allen leaving. He was going to start this year for Auburn. to be a wing starter for Auburn, and that he's been 25 plus minutes 3 years now for Bruce Pearl. You can knock him a little bit for the outside shooting percentage and maybe a little bit of turnovers here and there.
Do that with a lot of guys in the
You
SEC.
you can do that with a ton of people. So I mean, 25 minutes a game, 3 straight years for Bruce Pearl. It's gotta be worth something. So I like both of those Ole Miss guards kind of hanging right on the outside of the top 5.
Yeah, Flanigan's always been one of my most underrated players in the league, I think, and I know injuries have impacted that and such, but yeah, I mean he's very good, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he plays, kind of in a Chris Beard type rotation and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I've always been a big fan of Allen Flanigan. I think he'll do well there, and like you said, give them a duo that's played in the league before, and that's an important part. Anytime you get transfers, you can find guys who've been productive in the same league. That's always a nice thing to have.
Yeah, they're just proven. I don't think I would be more surprised if they don't do well than if they repeat their numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like those wings there. They got a nice 1-2 punch. Moving up just a tad. Oh my God, I'm falling into your trap here where I don't know.
Your list is growing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how to rank these guys.
We'll get to the list in a half hour, everyone. Just want to fast forward. We'll get to our top 28 here in about an hour. So.
Geez, I'll say this. Both of these guys should be in a top 5. It's just this position group at the top here is pretty jacked. One guy I'm going to say, and I think he has the highest ceiling out of guys here on the outside, Rylan Griffin of Alabama. Sophomore, 6'5". He's got length. He passes the eye test. Okay, he didn't put up a ton of numbers last year. He was a 7th man on the best regular season team in the country. I mean, it's still decent. But he looks good. He looks good when he plays. I wish he was a little bit more aggressive in tacking to the rim, play with a little bit more physicality. We probably will see that in a sophomore leap. Last year, with only 15 minutes per game, he was 3rd on the team in 3-point attempts. So he really had a green light, jacking threes. I hope he takes a little bit better shot selection, and I think if he averaged 6 points a game last year, it'd be very easy to average double digits, and I think an offense that's going to be a little bit faster. So I think Rylan Griffin is poised. He's right there. What do you think?
I think he takes the freshman to sophomore jump, and I think, as we've said before too, he kind of has to. I think on just kind of the way this roster is structured, and we're not knocking anyone else, but I think it's just we've always expected that. Even going back to last year, all right, this guy, he has it. It's just the next year, just wait, he's going to take a big jump because, like we said, now there's a little more. There's more spots open up essentially based on how the roster unfolded this offseason. So yeah, I think he takes a big jump. Like I said, played about 16 minutes a game last year. He'll that will increase. And yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I think you could see those things with that team last season. And as we always say, I mean, you can be the highest rated freshman out there, but sometimes it's a transition early on. I think you could see, sure, there were things that stood out with him, but now I think it's all about opportunity and getting more opportunity. I think you'll certainly see him improve in different areas, and obviously the 3-point shooting and just the overall percentages, I think, is something you want to see go up. But I think, again, with a year under his belt in the SEC, I would be surprised if he doesn't take a jump forward.
Yeah, I like the way you put that there at the end. I would be surprised if he doesn't take the jump forward, definitely. Yeah. I agree. First sneaky guy, I got 2 of them again. First one off the board right here. Let's go, baby. This is Chris Parker, freshman, Alabama. Listed out of high school at 6'6", now listed on the Alabama roster at 6'9". And he is very adamant about being called 6'9". He said on Twitter, he said, "Stop calling me 6'6". I'm not 6'6" anymore. And the reason I like that is just he's going to be a 6'9" guy that can handle the ball. He's been a ball handler his whole life, and now he has this big growth spurt coming out of high school. I like the idea of playing him at the 3 sometimes when Griffin is out, and having that 6'9" guy at the 3. And with Nelson and Pringle also, they'd be really tall, have a lot of length, similar to last year's lineup. So I'm not sure how much Chris is going to play, but if he does shoot the ball well and start to progress as a freshman and towards the end of the season starts playing more like a sophomore. If you see a 6'9" Chris Parker getting 15, 20 minutes a game, I'm not going to be all too surprised. So that's my first little sneaky guy off the board there.
Who's the second sneaky guy? Because like you're hitting well on the sneaky guy so far.
I hit Freddie DeLeon pretty well.
You did. So who's the next guy?
Next sneaky guy, and this one's actually I'm really excited about him, and that's because I actually grew up in New York myself, moved down here to SEC country recently, but I love a New York guard. They're just tough. That's why I like Juju Murray on Ole Miss this year. Jason Rivera-Torres coming into Vanderbilt. He's a 3-star. I think he's way better than a 3-star. He grew up in the Bronx and then played his high school ball in Virginia. He was a number 2 kid in the state of Virginia. DMV basketball is pretty good. He's a 6'7" point guard. He at the media after their foreign tour, Jerry Stackhouse said he can play the 1 through 3. But here's why I really like him. FAU returned 12 out of 13 players. Okay, they only have one. They're only going to bring in one guy this offseason. Guess who offered Jason Rivera-Torres in February?
Who's
FAU.
Yeah.
Dusty May was like, okay, we need one guy. Let's go get a guy. They wanted this guy. Stackhouse stole him. He's looked great in the foreign tour. So, I mean, we've been talking this whole offseason about it's Tyron Lawrence and Ezra. Who's going to help him? Who else? Is Colin Smith going to take a jump? We've been talking. Jason Rivera-Torres might start every game, and we're like, what? Where did we not see this coming? He might not play much at all. He's a 3-star freshman. But I think just seeing that Dusty May and FAU offered this guy in February, that he's from the Bronx, played high school ball in the DMV, I don't see how he doesn't contribute to Vandy here, and he kind of slipped through the cracks.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think the word is opportunity, right? And with these different guys, and like we said, Vandy is a team, I think, when you look at the roster, I'm curious to see what the rotation looks like. But like you said, I think there's multiple guys there that can kind of become, a central focus for that team because of who they lost. And we talked about kind of the guards. We had Ezra Mannion and Tyron Lawrence both ranked in our point guard and combo guard rankings. And now, like you said, if all these guys hit the way we think they're going to, then Vanderbilt will easily exceed expectations, which they did last season. And so, yeah, I think he's another interesting one that you could look at. And again, I'm more curious than anything just to see what their, rotation looks like this season, because they've got options. It's just, I'm curious to see what the minute kind of allocation is between all those different guys.
Another thing to note, I don't know how much weight it holds, but Stackhouse doesn't usually let freshmen talk to the media, and he let Rivera-Torres. So I don't know if that means anything at all, but just something to note. So yeah, those are my two sneaky guys. Watch out for Rivera-Torres and Chris Parker. They might get a bit more minutes than you think. But all right.
All right, are we to the rankings? Here we go.
To the rankings. Let's go.
Number 28.
Yeah. Is there anyone that we've mentioned that you had in your rankings?
Let's see here. I mean, I told you I would have I had Brandon Murray. I had Riley Griffin. I didn't, as always, my rankings are not great. But I would have had them both behind a lot of guys we have not mentioned yet. Allen Flanigan was another one too that I probably would have had higher. I have him higher in my ranking. So, but yeah, I mean, I think in this group I'm looking at here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's a clear top 5. Then I think there are a couple guys that I would see, like, I think they have to probably be 6, 7 in some order. But beyond that, I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of options, even if it doesn't maybe seem that there's the depth at this one that there was maybe at the combo guard or point guard position. Yeah,
I agree. So I took a cop out here at 5, and I have a tie just because been,
of course,
come on,
it's what we do.
Yeah, come on. What else did you expect? So at number 5, just because he hasn't done it, just hasn't proven it yet, I have Justin Edwards. He could easily be better than 5. The reason I love Justin Edwards, and I'm kind of falling in love with the prototype of a tall, big 3. It's the dog days of summer, and I've been watching old Final Four games and old championship games like it's nobody's business. And what almost every team has, unless they're like a Baylor who has Jared Butler and Mitchell and unbelievable guards, the three is always oversized. It helps with rebounding. It helps with defense. If they have offensive spacing, the defense just takes a huge leap having a big three. Justin Edwards listed at 6'8", 190. If he gets up to like 195, 200 come February, March, and you're looking at a starting five where the 3 is Edwards, the 4 is Bradshaw, the 5 is Trey Mitchell, that's going to be a really good defense. It's going to have a lot of length, a lot of turnovers for us. So I think he's going to eat up the minutes at the 3. I think if they go small, it's going to be Shepard comes in, something like that. But I think Justin Edwards is 30-plus minutes a game.
So I could realistically there's one guy I just have a hard time not kind of moving, but I'd feel okay putting Justin Edwards at 2.
I love it.
I kind of have him there. I'm not gonna lie. So he's much higher on my list. Like
I love it. Oh, thank you.
I think he's that good. And we've said from the start when we're doing these rankings, we have a hard time with freshmen because it's just one of those things where, and there have been times where we're like, maybe we just leave the freshman out, but like with him, I truly think I could put him at 2. And look, I can make the argument that I should put him at 1. But there's one guy I don't want to put him ahead of him, and that's the the SEC basketball guy. Seeing a guy for multiple seasons coming in, the reason I have this other guy higher. But yeah, I mean, I again though, if you just base it on what the potential expectation is in production, I think he could be number 1 on this list. So that's where I'm at on Justin Edwards. Look, Kentucky's stock, if we were better at like the production aspect here, I'd have like a big arrow like just pointing up right now in the middle of the screen. Like for me, Kentucky's stock is rising quickly. Yeah. And I think Justin Edwards will be a big reason why. So I think he's SEC Player of the Year type guy. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just so I love that. I'm mad at myself. I didn't rank him high.
Listen, as we always do on here, you can change it at any second. Yeah. Like I change my picks all the time. So if by the end of this list you look up and you're like, you know what, Justin Edwards is number 1, I'm fine with that. It's okay. Like I'm not holding it to you're fine. So, but let's see who number 4 is, 3 and 2 and 1, and then we'll have that argument. So,
okay, yeah, I like that. Oh, man, if you can't understand already, we're excited about Justin Edwards. So who I have kind of knotted up with him at like 5, 4-ish, is Cam Matthews. The only reason is because he has no shooting. He was, if you're familiar with evanmaya.com, he does like a player analytics, kind of breaks down their offensive production, their defensive production and whatnot, breaks it down by possessions and a whole bunch of science, math stuff. Cam Matthews was rated the 8th best defender in the whole country last year. He's a dog. He's the glue guy. Get on the floor, dive for balls, defense. Whatever you want to call it. He's that guy. He actually took a little bit of an offensive jump this past year. He was only averaging like 2-3 points a game, and then in conference play this past year was up above 7. So I think if they have a little bit more spacing, if DJ Jeffries can shoot the ball a little bit better, and you can have Cam Matthews at the 3, you can afford him to not space the floor offensively just because of how good he is defensively. He might average 8 points a game, and literally be like SEC Defensive Player of the Year type of player. If he just had some shooting, I would absolutely love him. But just because he doesn't space the floor on offense, I couldn't put him above these other guys.
Yeah, underrated player. Again, I think he fits that category of underrated guys. I think we may have had him on our all underrated team last season when we did our awards. I'm pretty sure he was there. But yeah, I mean, like we were kind of joking earlier. I mean, nobody on Mississippi State could shoot. So, I mean, they're the worst shooting team in the country. So it's one of those things where you can only penalize a guy so much for that, I think. And so No, he's on my list too. I've got him, probably around this range is where I would have him. Because again, I think he just didn't. Mississippi State was not aesthetically pleasing to watch just because their offense at times was not, again, it wasn't like what we expect in this era. Teams just coming out and knocking
Right.
down 8 threes or 10 threes a game. They just couldn't do that. So I think it made it harder for people to kind of buy some of these guys from even an offensive standpoint. But still, I mean, they got to the NCAA tournament. He is someone I think that took a bit of a jump last season, now takes a bigger jump this season. And again, it's just kind of seeing offensively how his game continues to grow there. So I like it.
Yeah, just if he continues to show growth offensively and maintains his defense, he's gonna be a great player. All right, now we're moving up into some studs.
Here we go.
Some studs. Number 4.
Well, we've already had a stud. I mean, you just had him at number 5. I had like 1 or 2. So, just call it what it is.
Yeah, let's why not? Why not?
Number 4.
Number 4, I have Blake's favorite player. I have Jordan Wright. And the reason I have Jordan Wright at 4 and not higher is just because last year was a bit of a breakout. And I don't know, what if he doesn't, repeat that, we might look like idiots right now. But I have no doubt in my mind that he's gonna repeat it. He looks great on the foreign tour. He looks like the best player on LSU right now. And I know don't overreact to foreign tours and everything, but still, if you're getting the first look at a team and someone is scoring 25 points in one half, you're like, my gosh, this guy's probably gonna have a good year. Just what he did last year at the back half of the year, spacing the floor for Vandy, and he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. Also, he's older. LSU didn't really have a go-to scoring wing last year, so I just think he's gonna be a godsend for this LSU team. I think he's probably gonna lead the team in scoring. I said Jalen Cook is going to when we did our point guard video. I'm backtracking on that.
I mean, I feel about Jordan Wright. I know, like we said, I think that's one of the reasons why, Vanderbilt's kind of a hard team for me at times to figure out exactly where to put him heading into the season, because I think he was such a big part of what they were doing at times, even though they do have, certainly 2 great guards returning and such. But I don't know. I just like his game. Like he was one of those guys that has played so many games in the SEC now, and I think that added experience, that was something that LSU was missing last year, is just someone with a lot of minutes in the SEC, someone that's proven they can score consistently. And I say consistently, right? Like, sure, he like many others could have some games where he could not, make a lot of shots, but he does a lot of other stuff too. And I still think he's someone that you'd rather have on your team than not, especially if you're an LSU that's really trying to make. And that's why I think it was kind of the perfect situation. Was LSU is trying to jump from the bottom, the literal bottom of the SEC, and I think having someone like that is shown they can essentially push a team that was near the bottom for a while, Vanderbilt, to where they got to last season, and be a big part of that success. Yeah, I think he is definitely someone that, for me, I've got him ranked. He would be in this range too. I'm very high on him, and again, this is where we start to get into that group where all these guys are really good, and then you can, again, that's to add in the top 5 and maybe even beyond. Like we said, if you've got Flanigan and Murray in that range, which, I mean, look, those guys are really good too. So yeah, I'm a big Jordan Wright guy, so I like it.
Yeah, and don't forget he turns 23 in September, so he's gonna be
old.
Yeah. You like that experience. Moving up here. Now this is where these last 3 guys. I shuffled them a few times. Do you have any clear number 1? Do you have a clear number 1, or is it kind of?
I mean, like I said, I could argue putting Justin Edwards at number 1. I wouldn't say I have a fully clear number 1, but like I could probably, I'm looking at my list here, I could make an argument for 1, 2. I could probably make an argument for 3 guys at number 1.
I like it.
So, but I'm curious to see where you go next, because I I don't want to say my top 3 is completely clear or top 2, but like I would have a hard time moving a couple of these guys out of there. Big
So
time.
I have him at 3 right now, but I think I'm going to bump him back to 4. I'm going to have Justin Edwards at 3. I'm making that
All
official.
right. You're welcome, Kentucky fans. I've done my
Making that
work here.
official.
So
So at 4, I'm going to go with Tramon Mark coming into Arkansas. And we definitely, if you've been listening to the show, you know how much we like Tramon Mark. I'm just going to say this. 2 years ago, he was the 4th best player in the American, rated on Evan Maya, 4th best. No, that was 3 years ago. 2 years ago was injured. So 3 years ago, 4th best player. Last year, 7th best player. So he's been one of the better players in the American on different occasions. It's not a fluke. He started every single game for Calvin Sampson, who was a number 1 seed. Now he comes to Arkansas, who has a loaded backcourt. That's the only reason why I don't. That's what's holding him back. I think is there's so many mouths to feed that I don't know if he's going to be a 33-minute guy like that he was at Houston. I think he might be more like 25 to 30. So the ceiling isn't as high as some of these other guys. But when you're getting a senior who's 6'6", is lengthy, he's not gonna come whipping off 2 screens and bang a 3 on the run. But if you leave him open, he can knock it down. And last year, I think he made just over 1 3 a game. If you do the math, Jordan Walsh was at 0.5 a game. Anthony Black was at like 0.7, I think, even just a bit under. So he's a better shooter than Walsh and Black. He's going to be able to space the floor a little bit more. So, yeah, solid. Just Tramon Mark, solid. What do you think?
mean, look, for a guy who started all 37 games for a number 1 seed and played 30 minutes a game, basically, I mean, how do you not rank a guy this high? Like, it's just, I mean, this is where he
Talked about it
belongs.
all.
Like, yeah, and that's the thing is I don't know why he's not getting talked about more, but I think it's just because of all the guys Arkansas brings in. Sometimes you just have guys that you just lump them into to the seats on the must bus, and there's a guy sitting here, there's a guy sitting there, and all the seats are full. But yeah, I mean, you look at this guy, like I said, it's just number 1 seed, started all 37 games, 30 minutes a game, good defender, can make shots. I mean, had his best game of the season, the NCAA tournament against Auburn.
Yep.
I mean, just go down the list. Like, he is one of the top transfers out there in the portal. And yeah, I mean, he's in the top 3 for me. So I would have a hard time, like I said, moving him outside of it probably. But yeah, I mean, he's really good. And we've talked about it before, but I think we're just most intrigued just to see what his role is on this particular team. Like, I think that I'd be surprised if he's not, a big part of their success this season. But, they got a lot of guys too. You could say the same about. So you got to have minutes go somewhere. But I would fully expect him to be a big part of what Arkansas does in a variety of categories this season.
Yeah, I just glad we're talking about him because really no one else is. All right.
I know you're not. I know you're top 2. We were talking about Riley Kugel. If you go back and watch our videos last season, it seemed like Florida was having a sort of roller coaster type season, as we know. Probably disappointing season for most Florida fans in Todd Golden's first year. But the one theme we kept talking about was like, look out, this guy he's coming along. Like, just you're seeing it each game. Who's the guy that's standing out on the floor outside of Colin Castleton, right? Whenever he's out there. But it was Riley Kugel. And I mean, you just down the stretch, he finished what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't add, but it's like what, 9 or 10 straight games, double figures to end the season. So yeah, I mean, it's there. Like, you want to talk about another kind of, to me, sleeper pick for like SEC Player of the Year type guy. Definitely. If Florida finishes, in the top 3 or something in the league, and maybe they're one of the, I don't want to say surprise because we both think they're going to be much improved, but I wouldn't be shocked if he is in that conversation. Like, I think you could see it. Like, he is an SEC player. He's got the athletic ability. He's got just a lot of those things you need to be a really good SEC player. Just with the size that he has, and someone who has proven that he can knock down shots. And in the SEC, if you can knock down shots from the perimeter, you're a huge asset, no matter what team you play on.
Interesting note about Kugel: he is the only member of the All SEC freshman team that's coming back. So if you're looking for guys that are primed for a sophomore leap, I mean, he's right there. But yeah, I don't know if this is exactly right, but I think he averaged I think it was 16 or 17 points a game over the last 12-ish games. If he can carry that over, I think he can. Let's say this: I would be surprised if he's not over 14 points a game averaging. I think he's going to be a high teens, 15, 16, 17 points a game. One of the better scorers in the SEC. So I flip-flopped 1 and 2. I actually have Kugel at 1, just because I think he has that SEC player of the year potential. I just think the ceiling's there. But you can't deny the man himself, Triple J. Come on. Been there, done that for year after year after year after year. You could see the argument for how can you not argue Triple J to be number 1? And if you guys, just for those who aren't familiar, Josiah-Jordan James, Tennessee, went to the NBA draft combine. I thought he was going to stay. 100% thought he was going to stay.
Yep. Came
back. Some people are saying that he might come off the bench. They might play Dalton Connect. I can't see it. He's been a 25-minute guy every year for Rick Barnes, and he's had some injury issues and whatnot. If you watch the games down the stretch without Ziegler, and where Tennessee turned to late in the shot clock, a lot of times it was Josiah-Jordan James. He's got a nice mid-range. If he can improve the three-point shot, which he has in his arsenal, I think this offense is going to be much improved. I think he can score near double digits. And I mean, he's a 6'6" senior who's been there, done that. He's solid as it gets.
He's not going to put up the numbers that Riley Kugel is going to put up. He's probably not going to put up the numbers that Justin Edwards is going to put up. But there is much more that goes into this ranking for me.
Value elsewhere
than just the point per game production. Yep. There's a lot more to it, and that's why, again, I could make, like I said, I could give you a strong argument to put Riley Kugel at 1. I could give you a strong argument to put Justin Edwards at 1. But I'm giving you the argument to put Josiah-Jordan James at 1 because that's where I have him too. And like you said, it's just, I think you just look at sort of the Swiss Army knife ability of a guy like this, and he can do pretty much everything. And you say, well, his percentages are not high enough and blah, blah, blah. And then that's fine. But I mean, and look, injuries were an issue last season. I know that, but I just think you cannot discount all the things that he can bring to the table for, in my opinion, what I'd be shocked is if not the number 1 or number 2 place team in the SEC this season. I really think Tennessee is, barring injuries, is a complete lock to be a top 2 team in the SEC. Maybe I'll not go with maybe top 3 team, but I think they're that good. And they've got the experience, and this is one of the reasons why you pair him with Vescovi and Ziegler and all the young guys that are taking a big step forward. It's just, I think he's number 1 on my list. And think about the defensive stuff too, what he brings from a defensive standpoint to make them one of the best defensive teams from the country for how many years running now? Every year he's been there, they've been a top 5 defensive team. Think about that. I guess, going back to 1920, they weren't, but
freshman year,
the past 3 seasons, they've been top 5 in defense, the past 3 seasons. And again, I think he's been one of the reasons why for that. And so, yeah, I'm going Triple J at number 1 here too. So
I love it, man. That's a solid group, though. I mean, I'm looking at my honorable mentions here with Brandon Murray, and I'm like, if it's Ole Miss against Tennessee, that's going to be a great matchup. Flanigan and Murray against Connect and JJJ. There's talented league, man. Talented league.
All right. Missouri fans, have no fear. So John Tonje is an interesting one because I think, and we're going to, we're going to make a decision now. Do we put him in the wing category? Do we put him more in like the power forward type category? Because I think if he's in the wing category, I would put him a bit higher, and we haven't even discussed him yet. But I think that's where we have to kind of decide if we want to put him in this category or if we want to put him in the next category.
So when I think of wing, I think of 6'5", 6'5" to 6'9" but that has the ability to put the ball on the floor, that can break down, perimeter
So he
defenders.
played more. I feel like he played more of like power forward type position at Colorado State. So maybe we rank him there.
So if I would put him, like, if I was to do my graphics for the rankings and put a position on him, I would have small forward, I think, as his position. I wouldn't call him a wing that has that handle, that tight handle, that can break down defense. But he is 6'5" and has the shooting and plays on the perimeter.
We're gonna get a lot of pushback on this one, so I'm just trying to figure out where to put John Tonje, because I think if you just kind of look, he is kind of that guy. I mean, he's basically a shooting guard coming out of high school. You kind of look at what he played at Colorado State. I think there was some, like you said, small forward, power forward type. So maybe we put him in the next group of rankings. Even if I think some people would have him listed as a wing. But don't worry, Missouri fans. I don't forget you. Like, we'll talk about him, and maybe we just put him in the next group that we do. So,
well, while we're talking about Missouri, if we want to start our quick overview here of the position in the conference, Kurt Lewis has got to get mentioned. Kurt Lewis is a junior, 6'5". He was the JUCO Player of the Year, and Sean East was the JUCO Player of the Year 2 years ago. So you've seen that translate well to the SEC, and Dennis Gates has that JUCO pipeline. So I'm not saying Kurt Lewis is going to come in and start and be all this and that, but he averaged 10 a game in 2 years at Eastern Kentucky before he went JUCO. So he's been at D1 before, averaged double digits, goes down to JUCO, has an amazing year, bouncing back. So Kurt Lewis could definitely provide for Mizzou.
They got some options. I mean, I guess, like, we talked about Tamar Bates and Caleb Grill. Did we talk about them in the combo guards, or I can't remember exactly?
We mentioned them.
Okay. It all runs together at this point. But yeah, so like, I think Missouri's got some intriguing options in this category. And again, I think there are some guys you can categorize as wings, and maybe on our sheet they're not. But again, this is all kind of we are in the era of positionless basketball. Like, think about, we're trying to put all these guys in a specific position, but we all know that this is kind of where things are now. Sure, like, there are certain guys that aren't going to play center that are point guards, but it is just an interesting dynamic to look at and think about. You could really label all these guys at different positions because you can see them used in different ways on their specific team. So, Missouri fans, how about this? If you want to label John Tonje as a wing, I've got him on my list. If you don't, then we'll put him. I'll probably have him somewhere in the next group when we talk about them. And like you said, Kurt Lewis, I think that's an interesting choice too, and a kind of under the radar one, because I do have high expectations for him on this Missouri team for Dennis Gates and company. So, all right, Max, anything else before we wrap up the wings?
Yeah. I just want to quick mention a few other guys I think that can break into these rankings. I'm not sure which one is going to do it, but I have a good feeling one of them might, and that's the two wings that Texas A&M brought in, Jace Carter and Eli Lawrence. Both of them got second team honors in their conference. Lawrence, Conference USA, Carter, Missouri Valley, both got second team. So both were among the top players in their conference last year. Both can shoot the ball, and they're stepping in for Dexter Dennis, who did a little bit of everything for Texas A&M. So I'm not saying both of them are going to hit. They might. That would be great for Texas A&M. But I think one of them, just play your odds. I think one of them is going to pop. I like Lawrence or Carter to have a good year. Looking up the sheet, then one more, Adrian Myers, Mississippi State freshman. He is much better than the 264th freshman coming in. 247 has him rated as the 60th small forward in the freshman class. You tell me there's 59 better
Yeah,
small forwards than this guy. He lit it up on their foreign tour, and I know I'm label me as the biggest overreactor to foreign tours. Just do it. I am a dry sponge, just ready to soak up any college basketball I see. So I'm loving Adrian Myers. I think Mississippi State did a good job with their freshman class. And then one last guy that I want to mention that just is probably I'm going to go out and say this, the most underrated wing in the SEC. All right, Will Richard, Florida. I haven't heard one person talk about Will Richard this offseason. I've had people say, oh, he's probably going to come off the bench. They brought in Zion Fulton. This guy is really good. He was second on the team in rebounds last year. He's a great rebounding guard. He was first on the team in three-pointers made. I mean, this guy did a little bit of everything for them. He's not even being mentioned. So, yeah, I wanted to mention Will Richard.
I agree with that one. That's another one that I think I had him in terms of like our sheet, the list that we were choosing from. But yeah, we didn't mention him. So yeah, it's the more we talk about this, I'm like, all right, there's maybe more depth than we gave it credit for. But there's a lot of options here. Like I said, specifically if you're including John Tonje, I think I would have him a bit higher. But like you said, there's a lot of guys at this position that. Man, they could all.
You're not mentioning a bunch.
Well, they're all SEC type guys. Like there's a lot of those at this position. Even if, like we said, there's just more guards to choose from when we did the position
right
for the guards, and so it's a good group. All right,
at Auburn might have a good year.
Yeah, so like there's a bunch of dudes. So
yeah,
we'll circle back around. If we forget players, we're like we forgot to put them in this position or that position. Don't worry. At the end, we'll do like, hey, here's the players we forgot to put at any position because we didn't know which one to put them in. So, anyways, there you go. All right, guys, we appreciate you as always. Lots of SEC basketball stuff on the channel. Like I said, we've already done our point guard rankings, our combo guard rankings, and we will have more to come here. As I assume, Max, next we're doing the power forwards. Correct? Is that our next category? So,
sure.
Power forwards will be up next as we'll look at those and rank those here in SEC basketball entering the 23-24 season. Check out everything else on the channel. As I said, we got just a ridiculous amount of football stuff up to get you ready for the start of the season. So hit that subscribe button and a lot more basketball stuff on the way. So appreciate you guys as always, and we will talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.